Hi everybody, and welcome back to episode 3 of ranking all 200 vinyl records I own. And today we are listening to AC/DC's Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. Now if you saw the previous video, I reviewed the debut album, or the worldwide debut album of AC/DC, High Voltage, and this is their direct follow-up, so it's going to be interesting to see the score compared to their first album, to see if it's gotten better or worse. But what I can guarantee you is it's going to be in 4/4 time. Now, as per usual, we rank the album off 3 categories: the context of the album and the creation it went into making it, the songs on the actual album, and then finally the cover art of the album. Each are ranked on a final score of 5, added together for a final score of 15 points. We'll see where it ranks. Now, starting off first with context, the band, after releasing High Voltage, that was their worldwide release, they started on their first world tour. Now, while they were doing that, they were already actually creating songs for their follow-up album. Once again, if you watched the last video, in High Voltage, it was pretty much a conglomeration of tracks from their Australian releases, so there wasn't necessarily new music being made when that album came out. So when they were in the studio creating music, it was actually tracks for their follow-up album. Also, apparently the tour wasn't as long as they wanted it to be. Apparently there was some visa issues in the US, so they kind of just cut it short, came back to Australia, and were like, let's just finish up this album. So just 4 months after High Voltage, Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap was released to the masses, and it actually performed spectacularly. Like I said, debut albums can really struggle on the charts because it's the introduction of a band, but this one was amazing. It chopped at number 3 off the Billboard 200 US album charts, and that is higher than actually Highway to Hell and Back in Black at the time, which is kind of fascinating because those are the more synonymously known AC/DC albums. It actually would be their highest ranked album on the charts until 1981 with the album On My Shirt. With this kind of turnaround and extreme growth in popularity and knowledge of this band in AC/DC, and the fact that they released this 4 months just after releasing High Voltage, so they were already just constantly in the studio working and making music and growing in stardom, I give this context a 3 out of 5. I think it's pretty darn good. Now on to the song category. What really shocks me of how it ranks so well and why it performed so well is because the track listing does not at least follow suit with how well it did on the charts, at least to me. Of course, to kick off the album, you have Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, best lyrics of the full album, best sounding guitar work, all around just a great song, a track that we still hear live today, even in their 70s. Apparently the song was inspired by a cartoon that Angus Young watched when he was a kid, and apparently that created this interesting track. Other than that, there's not too much info on the other tracks on this album. There's no like deep context for any of the meanings, pretty much just classic rock songs. I would say the only other track that I enjoy off of this album is Rocker. I think it's quick and simple, and I think AC/DC is really good at doing a simple rock song. But there are some absolute bombs on this album as well. The song Big Balls and Squealer, absolutely horrid tracks. The stinkers of the album. I don't even think the lyrics are good or funny or quirky. I think it's just all out gross. I don't really care for that. So AC/DC has a good job of making good hits and also some absolute misses. So all in all, when you put all 9 songs together, I liked 2 out of the 9 songs. Once again, just like the last AC/DC album, gives a pretty sad score of 1.1 out of 5 in the song category. So we'll see how this ends up in the final category. And of course, that final category is the album cover. Now this one, I will say, is a bit of a downgrade from the last album. The debut was like just out there with the lightning bolt, and it kind of just gave you this image of what AC/DC was. This seems a lot more tame. It doesn't seem as aggressive or out there. And once again, like I said about High Voltage, that's a very synonymous photo. There's other AC/DC synonymous photos I have in my brain, and I feel like most people have in their brain. This is not one of them. It's not necessarily bad, but I wouldn't really pick this as a follow-up. And once again, it's still shocking to me this was like their best performing album for like half a decade. So when you add up all the scores, that reaches a total score of 6.1 out of 15, which is actually at this current time, 3 episodes in, the lowest scoring album. Not only is it a whole point behind the debut album, which is interesting to me, but it's also 0.1 of a point behind the first album we did, which was ABBA. I think this does check out as I think about when I listen to these vinyls. If I were to pick which one I listen to the least out of the 3, it would definitely be this one. So I think my scoring is still following along what I expected it to do. But once again, as I've said like 5 other times in the video, crazy that this album was their best performing album for like 5 years of other good releases. When you think of other sounds that came out in 1976, I don't necessarily think of this. I barely even think of High Voltage, and this is even lower than that. Sadly, this is the final AC/DC album I own at this current time. I only have the 2, so the next episode will be changing up the genre a whole bunch, because we will be looking at Adele's most recent album, 30, in the next episode. So tune in. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Tune into the other content made by the creators on this channel. I know Jackie, Kai, Claire, and Liana are making some great content, so always stay up to date with that, and I will see you next time as we look at Adele.